Good morning, guys. It is a lot of road noise, so hopefully you can hear me and there isn't too much reduction in my voice. So anyway, I'm going to talk about why the MaxOak Blue Eddy is awesome. And it's not just about the MaxOak Blue Eddy 200 watt. It's about having a sort of mobile power station and why that's like a good thing. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually right now outside of my van. I actually slept in this neighborhood last night. But what I'm doing is getting the MaxOak out of the van. So if you can see that flashing blue right now, that's because this is the solar panel cord going into the MaxOak. So it's getting a little bit of power, but honestly it's not getting a lot. And also where I'm at right now, there's a lot of tree coverage. So even during the day when the sun is out, like a lot of sun isn't going to be coming to this device. So there's really no point in leaving it in the van all day when I can take it into a building while I'm at work and charge it up. So we're actually going to unplug the solar panel. We're going to unplug our AC output. There's just a little white plug that goes towards the front so I can use it when I'm in the van since I'm outside of it. I've already unplugged everything that's in the front of the van, and so we just pull this guy out and it's going to go to work with us. So one of the things I love about this device is how thin it is. Like, the design is pretty standard. Display, inputs and outputs, but as we know, the jackery is very, very thick. This is very, very thin. So as far as like having something that's easy to put into a book bag, and that's always my plug, like how easily does it fit into a bag? Like my book bag's pretty full and I'm going to be able to fit this in there. All right. So I'm here at work and I've plugged in the MaxOak Blue Eddy. I like to talk a little bit about the difference between one of these guys and sort of the MaxOak for me. Alright, so my workstation, where I'll be working today, is right over there in front of the piano. The MaxOak Blue Eddy is going to come down to the ground with me, right here on the floor, beside my book bag. So literally I can, I can turn around and see the MaxOak and see that it's safe. It hasn't gone anywhere. Nobody's walked off with it. It's also with my book bag, which I'm going to take with me when I go back to the car. So the difference between that and, sorry, I'm using a selfie stick here, and a RAVPower power bank is when I go to a work site where like maybe I'm not in this room all day, I can plug this in really easily and leave it and walk away from it. Like I said, it wasn't cheap, but it's not super expensive. And so like something this size, number one, if I'm walking around, it's going to fit like right, can't see it, it's going to fit right in my pocket, you know? So right there in my pocket, this is going to fit. So if I have to walk around all day, that's really great. And as light as the MaxOak Blue Eddy is, I don't want to be walking around all day on the work site being like, I'm carrying my MaxOak. So that's sort of the difference between the two for me and why I consider it useful to have both of them as sort of mobile power sources for times when you need to walk away from the van. Now, I still use this in my van. I obviously use the MaxOak Blue Eddy, and I'll probably continue to use both even after I get a battery bank set up. And so, yeah, for me, that's just the difference. And this thing's been charging all day, so let's just take a look at it. And, oh, wow. It's actually pretty close to full. And it's a little later in the day, so, like, that's gonna be really useful for me, considering, like, the best sun hours, as it were, have already passed. And like I said, where I'm parked, there's a bunch of trees, there's really tall buildings. It's not the greatest place to get sun all day. If I left it in the car, it might have been full, it might have been half, it might not have charged at all. But by bringing it into the building, and because it's so easy and portable to carry, I have something where I still have power when I get back to the van. Like I said, I personally like the MaxOak Blue Eddy. I'm glad I chose it. I like it better than what I had before. Honestly, I like the size better than the jackery. I don't know if it's better than the jackery or not, as I've ever owned or used one, but I like the size better, especially for 200 watts, but it really doesn't matter what you buy. And I'm going to repeat this over and over again. I am just talking about why, even if you have a solar system in your van, it's useful to have something that's about the size of the MaxOak Bluetti. It'll sit on a table really easily. It'll still hold a lot of power. But, you know, it's portable. It can fit in a book bag. It's really easy to throw around and carry around. And this thing, I've only had it a short time, but it's fallen over. It's like one time I stopped and it flew from the back of the van to the front of the van. Like, it's been through some knocks and bruises, and it's still working pretty good. So I have faith in it, considering. And then this, like I said, this is when, like, you're like, if you go to a concert, if you go to a music festival, if you go hiking, you're going to be constantly moving. Like when you're settled down at your campsite, you want a MaxOak Bluetti. When you're walking around, you want something the size of a RAVPower. Doesn't have to be the MaxOak Bluetti, doesn't have to be the RAVPower, but you want things in these categories when you're doing different kinds of things, especially if your point in van life is to get out. You know, if your point is to get out, and if you're working like me, and you are charging your power banks or some sort of power source at a job, you need to really think about what's going to be the most useful for you. Do you want something this size that you can stick in a corner and nobody's going to notice it because you have to be away for it for hours of a day? Or do you want something the size of the MaxOak Bluetti, or even a little bit larger, that you can carry in? Well, you will see it all day, or somebody's able to take control of it all day. Because you kind of just don't want something like that just kind of sitting around and then to walk away from for hours. Because if somebody figures out what it is, like, everybody knows what this is. And it could get stolen, and at least it's not your phone. But this is relatively reasonable to replace. You probably don't want to be buying like $200+ power banks, you know, every week or something like that. So really assess your situation. But these are just examples of ways the two different sizes are useful. So it's after work, and I am about to do reports for the show. And another thing I love about, we're just going to talk in general about what I love about the MaxOak Bluetti. As you can see right now, I'm just in a general city environment. I'm at a little cafe, which has like a little place outside where you can work. It has a little desk, it has a bench, etc., etc. And the thing is, it's a great place to sit and work. Now, obviously, if you're dealing with a cafe that's outside, it doesn't have any power. And so I have my little plug right here. And the good thing is, I get to sit out here and at an outdoor cafe and still have power for my laptop. I should probably turn this around so you can actually see the stupid branding. Not that they're sponsoring me, though. If they want to sponsor any YouTube videos in the future, feel free to, MaxOak, because I actually do like this product. I also have USB ports, so if I want to throw my phone on this, I could. I'm probably not going to use this except when I'm at home. Just because it's a really awkward little thing to have dangling off. But yeah, I could throw my cell phone in here, I can plug my laptop right here, and then I can be sitting at an outdoor cafe using this. This is why I'm a big fan of having portable power systems. And what I really like about the MaxOak Bluetti is that it's so thin. I literally fit this in my book bag with my laptop and some books and some other stuff I needed to take into work with me today, because it's so freaking thin. And I know a lot of people are fans of the Jackeries, and I am too. Even though I've never owned one, every review I've seen from reviewers I trust say it's great, but it's a much thicker thing. It's much more lunchboxy than this. This is kind of thin. Like, I would expect my lunchbox to have a little more. I guess I've seen lunchboxes this thin, but I don't think so. So yeah. So I'm like, one of the things I really love about this is just its size. Like, it's not really that heavy. It's very easy to lift. It did add some significant weight to my book bag, but like not really a lot. And so if you're really interested in being able to sit in outdoor cafes, outdoor environments, parks, things like that, like outside of like the general uses that you see a lot of these for, which is like hiking and mountain biking and being like really, really remote, even in a city where you just want to be outside and enjoy the environment, it's really nice to have something like this that you can just stick on your table. And like I said, I personally love this particular product. Like, I'm really glad I chose it over some other choices, but almost any product similar to it would work. And I think it's really good to have something in the 200 watt range for just sitting at tables, at cafes, outside, at parks, at areas where you want to be like out and not cramped in. And like I said before, that's also the general advantage of having something outside of your, solar system that's hooked to your van. That's a great thing to have. It's really wonderful. There are times I am so happy I added a panel and I'm able to charge this by panel. But it's also really great that I can take this in a building. I can charge it up as an alternative when I'm challenged in other ways. Like, you can't take your solar system that's hooked into your house power into a building. You can take this into a building and charge it up. And you can also have it in exterior environments like this that are really, really pretty and have power. And sometimes, like, if it's really nice outside, all right, loud vehicle. And sometimes if it's really nice outside, do you really want to trap yourself inside Starbucks when you could be outside Starbucks? I'm not at Starbucks. I'm at some other coffee cafe shop thing. All right. So yeah, that's pretty much why I love this device. All right, so that video talked about a lot of the good of the MaxOak Bluetti, which I still believe in firmly. Like its size, its form factor, its portability, its usability, all of that is good. So here's one downside of the MaxOak Bluetti that unfortunately need to talk about, and that is its customer service. So they give you a little plug to go in the 12-volt port. Basically, they give you one of these, not that, one of these with a 8mm port on the end. This is not 8mm, it's bigger, it's this size. So they give you one of these with this size barrel on the end, which is what you need to be able to use a 12-volt socket. Well, the one they sent, it got bent out of shape. And so I wrote to them saying, hey, I'd be happy to pay for it, but mine no longer works. And they were like, do you mean this cable? And it took them weeks to even get back to me. And I was like, yeah, that cable. And then again, it took them days to get back to me. And then they were like, oh, we don't sell that separately. Now, what comes with the MaxOak Bluetti is one with the big barrel on the end and the small barrel on the other side. And I had this from my previous power station, so I'm able to plug this into this and then plug this into the MaxOak Bluetti in order to still make use of that 12-volt slot, since it's not built in. It's one of the, and there's enough room there. I almost wish they had just put a 12-volt actual port on there instead of all these steps you have to make with cables and adapters in order to be able to use that port on the front for an actual like 12-volt appliance. Like, most people aren't going to be buying a bunch of cables and connectors to do that. And one of the big advantages of the Jackery is that you don't have to. Like, the little port is built in, even on the 160, which is their smallest one. And then what's the other one after that? Is it the 240 or something like that? But the port's there. Like, you don't need a little adapter cable thing to do it. Now, if they had willingly replaced something that's very difficult to non-existent to find, in fact, it may be custom to this device, it would have been like, awesome, you guys recognize this is difficult to find, independent of your company, and you're willing to provide it since it's a small, annoying, like, piece to replace or find a similar cable for. Well, they just replied back, again, very slowly, oh, we don't sell that separately. They offered me no solutions or any way of sending the part. Comparatively, as I did before, I did a review on the RAVPower power banks. I still believe in these. I still use this one and the other one, the one with the AC port on the top, all the time. So not this one, I don't feel like digging it out right now, but the one that's also from RAVPower with the AC port on the top, the charging cable for that broke. It got bent out of shape just from a way it was laying while it was charging, and so it didn't really charge the RAVPower block anymore. I wrote to RAVPower. I told them that my charger was broken And they literally sent me a new one free of charge on them. I didn't have to pay shipping. I just told them it was broken. I proved to them, I had to send them like my receipt from Amazon that showed, you know, how long ago I'd bought it. And they put one in the mail without hesitation. Comparatively to the MaxOak Bluetti. Also, the Kaluli, before I replaced it with my new car fridge, also had a broken cable. The 12-volt cable got bent in the back. Cables, you know, they're a challenge sometimes because they need space, and sometimes if they get bent the wrong way, things get thrown off. Point is, another situation where a cable had been broken, and so I could use the AC power. I could not use the DC power because the DC power cable broke. Now it turns out it's the same cable as a lot of other companies, but I wrote to Kaluli and I was like, hey, this happened. They immediately emailed me back and said, this is where you can find it on Amazon. It turned out to be a wrong cable. I found an alternative cable and I was like, hey, will this one work? And they were like, it looks like it does, but let us know. So they sent me an Amazon link with a solution, and they were willing to get feedback on, even though I ended up not using that product because it actually didn't fit my van or my van lifestyle. Like, the Kaluli company responded back to me and tried to find me a solution. RAVPower, mind you, they do just standard power banks, not solar power stations. Even though I think they do have like one of those folding solar things that's for like charging your cell phone. But point is, I wrote to them about a cable situation. They immediately resolved my problem, which goes back to, I have no regrets about the video I did for the RAVPower power banks. If you're looking for something portable to get in your pocket, they have not sponsored a video of mine, and they were amazingly responsive through their customer service. As soon as I proved to them that I actually had bought that product and at what date I had bought it, they immediately sent me a replacement without hesitation on them. Whereas MaxOak Direct was basically like, we can't solve it, too bad you broke it, unless you buy a whole new machine, which is sad because I really like my power station. I like that it's slim. I like that it's easy-ish to throw down in the book bag. Like, a lot of the other power stations are they're very rectangular and big and bulky and awkward, and they're not easy to put in the bag. The fact that this is slim, you know, you can stick it in a corner. It's very van friendly. I like the shape of it. And there's so many positive things I like about it that I said earlier in this video, but I have to be honest, their customer service sucked. So MaxOak Direct, you are basically creating a custom cable situation, and unless somebody knows cables and ports, it's going to be really difficult for them to create replacement cables for themselves or get replacement cables. And unless you want to supplement that situation, you maybe should be a little more friendly in your customer service emails. That's all I got for you. Bye-bye.